If we had better men, would we have a better world? Our guest today certainly thinks so. Hear what he has to say.
Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Hello and welcome back to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman, Reiki master, spiritual medium, and level 3 quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner based in the Kansas City area. Glad to have you here. Today on the show, we radiate better men with Robert Manni, who is the host of Guys Radio, a primetime radio show airing 3 times weekly on the KCAA Radio SoCal station. This podcast airs worldwide in over 100 countries, charting in US, UK, Canada, Australia, France, and Germany. And Guys Radio supports men and women seeking to evolve and be at their best. Robert has interviewed over 800 thought leaders, including metaphysical and spiritual teachers, wellness experts, New York Times bestselling authors, award-winning journalists, media personalities, business leaders and entrepreneurs, alternative medicine specialists, and more, including me, yours truly, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Robert's critically acclaimed debut novel, The Guy's Guide to Love, is heralded as the men's successor to Sex and the City. RobertManni.com features his syndicated blog on life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, with over 300 in-depth articles, his guest media appearances, branded videos, and upcoming events. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode just as much as I did. But before we get too much further, I have my traditional asks of you, the audience listening. Now, if you enjoy this show, and I really hope you do, please help us grow the show and boost our numbers in the algorithms. You can do that by liking this episode wherever you're listening, by subscribing or following so you don't miss a notification when we have a new episode coming out. And you can do that in any platform that you're listening in right now. We are on all the platforms. So wherever you're listening, please do those simple things. Share this episode with people that you think might be interested. You know, a guy's guy who could learn about how to be a better man? Who doesn't? Then send this episode to them. Do you know people who enjoy positive content, who love to hear from thought leaders all over the world on all kinds of subjects? Because the Radiate Wellness umbrella is a big umbrella. Any way that you can think of to radiate anything we talk about here on this show. So doing these simple things can really help us out a lot. And lastly, if you're in a position to, can you float a couple bucks our way? Really, it's not much. Now, this show is free for you to listen. It will always be free for you to listen. But we have costs. Okay, who am I kidding? I have costs associated with this show. Editing, not cheap, and hosting, because these things do add up. So I'm not complaining. I love doing this show. I really do. It is a passion of mine. It is a labor of love. I love to talk with these amazing people all over the world and find ways for you to live better. So help a sister out. Appreciate it. Love you. On with the show. Well, hello, Robert. Thank you for joining me today to radiate better men. It's a great topic. You know, and it's not just the men, though, is it? But anyway, I'd just like to welcome you and thank you for joining me today.
Well, my pleasure. No, it's not just the men, but better men, better world is a good place to start. And I know from my work and from my shows that, you know, it's called Guys Radio, but half of the listeners and viewers are women. And the same thing with my book and all my work, because I think women are a lot more open to continually learning new things. And a lot of guys, I'm a boomer, and I know a lot of guys, they just think they know it all And that's okay. But I think that's going to come out that there's a lot more for a lot of men to learn. And I think it's going to be a really good thing, because I think when we have more disclosure about a lot of things that are going on, the guys are going to really open up in a good way.
I think so as well. And I do see this as a problem, what you said about guys being closed off, shut off, thinking that what I know now is all there ever is, and not having that curiosity, right? So why do you think that is? How did you think most men got there?
I have to look at it from a witnessing standpoint, because I'm not patting myself on the back, but I have always been curious. And I feel that I want to keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. If I'm being told something that's wrong, I want to know the truth. And I think what happens is we just get to a point where a lot of guys, well, let's put it this way, Christy, this is a time where I think it's the best time ever to be a man, because it's never been a time where men can be more free to be whoever they want to be. It is also a time where it's never been less clear who men really are. And men are kind of caught in the crosshairs. You've got young guys who don't have role models now. It's either MMA or manscaping. And you've got boomers and a lot of GX guys who they think they've been there, done that. And now once, Me Too came out about 4 or 5 years ago, and that shut a lot of guys down. Now, it was good. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. And a lot of times they happen faster than the culture can keep up with. And a lot of guys freaked out over that. It was a wake-up call. Guys, listen, witness, see what's been going on. Men have been running things for the past thousands of years, and they haven't given women a very fair shake. So sometimes things speed up, and it's not always comfortable. But, this is a really good time that guys can live through this. And if you're a good guy, if you're a guy's guy, and you are really respectful of yourself and of others, you will meet all the women you want to meet, because they're really looking for good men.
Yes, they are. Things have been status quo for so long. And I think you're right. There are no good role models for how else to be for men. In fact, some people I've been talking to have really been talking about a crisis of masculinity. What do you think about that?
It is a crisis in a way that for a lot of young kids growing up now, they're not sure what the role models are supposed to be. They're not sure how they're supposed to behave. And there's a lot of bringing the girls up now and like girl power and all of that. And a lot of the young guys are like, what about us? Like they're afraid of being wrong. And I think we have to be very careful that we don't mess up a whole new generation of boys who are growing up now. I have a son, he's 12 years old, and I coach some of the baseball teams that he's on. And I see with a lot of the young guys, it's not like it was when I grew up. We talked all the time, the whole team, everybody was all over each other. We made fun of each other. We had fun. We had jokes. These kids nowadays, from what I've witnessed, and it's only a small sample, obviously, they're pretty much, they have a friend here or there, but a lot of young boys keep to themselves, and they don't have those social circles that they had when I was a young boy. We were out all the time, and now they've got other things to do. Once they get hold of that phone, it's over. So we have a crisis, I don't think just with young boys, with young girls also. I think we have to really pay attention to what's happening with our young people. I mean, a lot of the older people, I say in quotes, because I feel that aging is a choice, we get set in our ways, particularly the guys. So it's not too late for them, but we have a real opportunity with younger people to help them along the way, because we have a really dysfunctional culture that we live in now for so many different reasons, no matter what side you're on, or if you're on a side. I'm not on a side. I'm on humanity's side, but there's so much stuff going on, and it makes it very tough for everybody.
Oh, it does. And all you have to do is look at a comment section on any article. Like last
week. You can't say anything, Christy, right? You can't say anything without being attacked by some side or the other. So I don't even bother with that on social media anymore.
Or people being ugly and just being horrible. Last week, there was a school bus crashed into, turns out it was my brother's dentist building. But the comments there, I'm like, something so neutral as a bus crash, people were being awful and ugly and just horrible. We're learning such bad habits. Now, you mentioned the kids at their game practice picking up, looking at their phones. I think there's a lot here that is harmful, right? So where do you see kids getting these attitudes now?
Well, just to correct myself, I don't see them with the phones at baseball practice. That's a good thing that they're out on the field and that's it. But a lot of schools now are cutting kids off from phones, which I think is a really good thing. And the studies have shown that in those schools, the performance has been better because we're all addicted to the phones. I mean,
Right.
People walking down the street, you see them all the time. I see people driving, and I don't know if they're texting or talking on the phone, but they're looking at the phone where they're driving. I see people on e-bikes with holding their phones, watching it. This is like crazy now because it's not only just bad for the brain, it's dangerous for people who are in the proximity.
Right. Even if you're walking, you can trip and fall because you're not looking where you're going. So do you think it's more of the social media aspect of it, or do you think it's like things like podcasts where men are getting these ideas?
I think it's social media because everybody's so quick to become an expert and react to things. And that's not really how it works because you can just start scrolling. And the way the algorithms work is they'll put you in an echo chamber and they'll feed you what you like to eat. And so you're going to get more and more of the things that you have a proclivity to favor. And that doesn't keep you very open. I know my background's in advertising and when we do retargeting and things like that. If you say, if you're scrolling and you're looking at cars all the time, you're going to get ads for tires. You're going to get ads for different type of vehicles. That's just how the world works. So we have to be careful about how much we use our devices and when we put them down. And it's important to put them down. We started talking about men. I think this issue that we're talking about now it transcends men. It's a people issue and a societal issue. But so if you want to go down that road, we can, but it's your show. So I'm here for you.
Well, I mean, we were talking about men. So of course I was thinking specifically men, but yeah, you're right. We get our ideas, whether we're good enough or not, by some of the social media we consume and what it means to be who we are by some of the social media we consume. And some of these podcasts out there, of course, we're on a podcast. You've got a show as well. And some of these podcasts out there are also reinforcing some of these negative stereotypes, negative way communicating. Yeah. And like, is there a way to counteract that to not practice?
Well, at least for my show, Guys Radio, and we're on YouTube and we're on KCAA here in Southern California, and the podcast is in over 100 countries, et cetera, et cetera. We don't cover, I have two off-limit subjects. I don't cover Trump and I don't cover COVID. And because everybody has very strong opinions on that. I saw somebody who I know, a very smart person, said, oh, now that Trump's invading the cities or whatever, that if you still think that's okay, unfriend me. Now that could go for both sides. And when we get to the point where your political beliefs are killing friendships and dividing families, you have to ask yourself, is this by design? Whatever, it's not a good thing. So my show is where men and women can be at their best and everyone wins. We cover everything. I've done food, wellness, diet, spirituality, New York Times bestsellers, sports, music, celebrity, any type of wellness thing, spirituality, metaphysical practices. You were on, you did a great job. You're going to come back and talk about the other form of hypnosis that you practice, the Dolores Cannon method. So what I do on my show is I bring the information out there. Then it's up to the audience to be introduced, hopefully men, to new modalities, and they can determine like, hey, this is something interesting that I wasn't aware of. I want to learn more. Or they can say, you know what, that was pretty cool, but I'm not really vibing with that. So I am not in a niche. So it's made it tougher for me to grow because I don't just talk about one thing. We take on everything. I've interviewed over 800 people and thought leaders from around the world. And what it does, Christy, given me a great education because I always think like, oh, they all must know each other. But no, none of these people know each other, or very few of them do. So I get the best of each one of them when they come on the show. And I really get an education. And hopefully my listeners and viewers do also, because we bring some really cool people onto the show, like yourself.
Very cool. Yeah, I love your show. So let's talk about your show a minute. Guys Radio. How did that start? Like, whose brainchild was this? How did you get it out there? How long have you been doing it?
Okay. I've been doing it for a while. I started because I wrote my novel called The Guy's Guide to Love. And it's a book about men. It's a rom-com. It's been called the male successor to Sex and the City by iconic author Dan Wakefield, who wrote a lot of Hollywood screenplays and a lot of really well-known books. And I wanted to write a book about men for women. And so the main character in the book writes a column for women called The Guy's Guide to Love. And he does it because, well, let me read you the blurb real quick. When Max Halliday, rising New York ad man, joins a glitzy Midtown agency, he knows the game is winner takes all. But after Max's best friend, Roger, a serial womanizer, seduces his billionaire client and puts his career in jeopardy, Max strikes back, penning The Guy's Guide to Love, a column exposing the many Rogers prowling New York City. And that's the basis of it. And so life started replicating art because I started writing a blog based on the book. And then I started doing a podcast about men for women. And so that's how it grew. And then I started just doing about relationships. And then a lot of people, agents and stuff in the business, started sending me guests from all different walks of life. And it kept growing and growing. And then I was a guest on KCA radio out here in California. And after the interview, the producer invited me to be a host on that show. So I took that on. The podcast kept growing. Then I started writing about aging because I really feel it's important. And I had a couple of health hiccups in the past decade. And so UK Health Radio asked me to be a presenter. And now I pen a monthly column called Aging is a Choice, where I've done 30 months of it now. And I write about a lot of things that people can do to take better care of themselves. And it's all based on choice. So you don't have to follow that cultural curriculum, if you will, that defines you and says, you're 70, so therefore you're this, this, and this. That is just, we don't have to follow that. But a lot of people do follow that. So it's just the whole idea has expanded. And it's part of my curiosity and part of want to bring a better world out through messaging and through information so people can make their own determinations.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it sounds, from your book, which I'm reading, you're Max, aren't you?
No, I'm actually not Max, but I relate to him. I have three male characters that are representative of the three aspects of man. You've got Max, the regular guy. You've got Roger, the uber masculine, if you will, womanizer. And you've got the third guy, Alejandro, who's really the spiritual side. So it's really about three archetypes. So instead of writing about myself, I wrote about archetypes. And the characters, as I was in the process, started taking on a life of their own. And they kind of led me to, here's how the story should envelop, always keeping in mind the basic tenets of storytelling as, what does the main character want and why can't he get it? And it was a real ride writing this book. And I had a lot of fun with it. And I learned a lot about myself when I did it.
I'll bet you learned a lot about yourself and other men and motivations. What drives other people that are not you? Now, your background is different than most guys out there, that you're a Reiki master teacher. You're an advanced clinical master hypnotist, and you're certified in Ho'oponopono, Silva Life System, Kundalini Reiki, and Awakening Dynamics. So you're a curious guy. You are completely off-road with many of the things that most guys are into. How'd you get to be so curious and so open-minded?
How I grew up. When I was a kid, I was reading the Carlos Castaneda books about Don Juan when I was like 10, 11 years old. And I just always have been open to metaphysical things and just learning more about the bigger picture, how things work. And I didn't plan for it. And I just kept going. And I stumbled upon learning Reiki when I injured myself training for a marathon. I worked in corporate life in New York City for 30 years. So I had the path of, traditional male. But on my own, I started to explore a lot of modalities that I thought could be really helpful. So I studied Reiki and hypnosis and Ho'oponopono, and then I started writing and meditation. Now I practice TM, and all of these things have helped. And through going through some health challenges I had about a dozen years ago, I changed how I live. I changed my diet. This is just for me. I believe that everybody has to do what works for them. So for me, I stopped eating meat. I stopped drinking alcohol. I do intermittent fasting. I meditate every day. And just on and on and on, have a really good diet and do the very best that I can. And it works for me. I just saw what's happening with a lot of my peers where they weren't changing at all. They were doing the same things that they were doing when they got out of college and we went into the workforce. Now, I'm not criticizing them, but for me, I was like, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be a better way to take care of ourselves. And so I started, I did run 3 marathons, so I know how to do the physical part of it, but I then started to change my diet and I got sick. I had 2 partial nephrectomies a dozen years ago, and I could have been, I looked into the abyss and that could have been it. And here I am a dozen years later and I'm fine. So you just have to get your wake up calls. And when you get to wake up calls, you have to listen. I stopped drinking alcohol, not that I had an issue, but I had an emergency appendectomy about 5 years ago, exactly. And when I was going through, I didn't know what was going on. I was in incredible amount of discomfort. I was rolling around on the floor of my home, and a voice came into my head, clear as a bell, and said, "Don't drink alcohol." That's it. And you either listen to that voice or you don't. So I was thinking like, well, I really don't drink that much. I've been in the business and stuff like that, but I've never had an issue. But I stopped. I figured if I get a voice in my head that tells me very directly, don't do this, I stopped. That's 5 years ago next month. So you have to, I think, put yourself in a position to listen, because the universe wants to help you. And if you're not listening, and if you're too distracted, you're not going to get the information you need to get to help you make the choices that will help yourself. And when you work on yourself, you make the world a better place also.
I think so too. And that's partly why you're doing this, isn't it? Better men, better world.
Yes. Yes. I've just continued to go on the path. I was in advertising. I was great at it. And we did a lot of beverage alcohols, the big brands, Bacardi and 1800 tequila and Stolichnaya. And I had a blast. And then I started going in a different direction. And now I left New York and moved out west. And it really had nothing to do with that, because that's not what created the change, but it's helped the change, because the lifestyle out here is a little more outdoorsy. And I had gotten everything I could possibly get out of New York City. It was wonderful. I had a great time. It was a perfect place for me in my career. I got to travel the world on business. I got to really understand how business works, how our world works, what drives our economy, etc. And working in New York in advertising, it's the all-star team. It's the best talents from around the world come in there. And you don't realize it until you stepped away from it and you see like, wow, that pool of talent is just absolutely amazing. And hey, I became president of an agency. So I figured, hey, I did a pretty good job at that. If I put my efforts into helping the world now the best way possible and being the best person I can be, and not to be sanctimonious about it, but trying to follow a path that could help people and help guys to wake up and say, hey, what else is out there for us? And I think a lot of guys, a lot of boomers, they're curious, but they lock in because they want to protect. There's this thing called cognitive dissonance, which I think we've experienced as a culture quite frequently in the last 5 years or so, where people don't want to know the truth because it might shake up their world too much. And I think we've got to get past that. And you know what? We're going to get past it, whether people like it or not. It's coming.
Yeah, somebody's going to be disillusioned.
Yeah.
Right? We all have very different views of the world and how it works, and somebody's going to have their world shaken. And that's just how it is. So you've done some amazing things just to live your life better, make your own personal world better. So I'm trying to decide where to pivot next, because there's so much we could talk about, Robert. I mean, seriously.
It's an area that I've been writing about for about the past 30 months that I think is super important. And this is because I keep open-minded. I started Health Triangle magazine launched, and they said they wanted writers to write about different subjects. And I figured I'll write a column on aging. Mm-hmm. I called it Aging is a Choice, because there's so many different ways you can age. And I really have an issue with the fact that society gives you these labels. I mean, we've been given labels like first you're the kid, and then you're the student, and then you're the worker, and then you're the parent, and then now you're retired, and then you're this. And they basically tell you, you're in or you're out or whatever. And I'm like, that's not how it has to be. So I started writing a column called Aging is a Choice. And I started writing about things like 5 changes I've made. I started to learn about Ayurvedic medicine. I stopped drinking, etc. How to change from the inside out, how to steps to spirituality, how to get more out of eating less, different types of meditation, the importance of sleep and aging, top tips to age mindfully. Then I did 4 columns about dating over 50, because I'm a frequent guest on a YouTube show called Second Act TV, and it's all about relationships over 50. I'm like the dude that they bring on every so often. And I've got 2.5 million views on this show because they really want to hear what a regular guy has to say if he does it in a respectful way. So I also wrote about relationships over 50 because 26% of people over 50 are single in our country. And it's amazing. Yeah. And it's really tough. Dating's never easy. But when you're over 50, it becomes more difficult because a lot of people have been out of the market for a while. The technology has changed. Yet you flip it around, you look at it and you say, wow, you've got online dating, which a lot of people don't like. But if you can kind of get through it, it can really be helpful because you'll meet people that you never would have met. My wife was on match for 3 days. She had a 3-day weekend pass. She winked at me. We met. We've been married for 15 years. So it can happen. And she taught me about how to date better, because so many people go on Match, Christy, and they're dating like 5 people at the same time. And my wife, who had a freebie, she said, "Are you still on Match after a couple of weeks?" And I'm like, "Yeah, aren't you?" And she said, "Why don't we just go out with each other? And then if it works, we'll keep going. And if it doesn't, then we don't have to go out anymore." And I thought, you know what? That's a new idea, because I'm used to everybody's juggling. And so we started just going out with one another, and we grew. And every couple is a little mini universe, as you know. And we created one that's growing. And now we have a little satellite who's 12 years old, our son. And we've been very happy. At least I think so. I don't know. I'll check with my wife later. Seems to be good. Listen, marriage is never easy, but it can be wonderful. And I'm glad. Another thing is I waited. So many people get married early. I was over 50 when I married. I've only been married once, and I don't plan to do it again. And I'm glad I waited.
That's awesome. Well, happy wife, happy life, they say.
Yeah.
Right?
It seems to be. I'm the same person, but different aspects of me have grown. And I attribute a lot of that to my wife teaching me. She's a great teacher, and not in a way, not a finger wagging way, but just leading by example.
Exactly. You mentioned the aging and the choices that aging.
Mhm.
What do you think is one of the most essential things to know or keep in mind as we're aging?
Well, I think number one, don't accept the definitions that our culture will give you. You can just explode all of that, and you determine how you're going to age. Now, of course, a lot of people have some type of illnesses and chronic disease and all of that. You have to deal with the cards that you've been dealt. You have to play that hand. Putting that, in mind, factoring that in, you can still make a lot of choices each and every day as to what you think, what you consume, and what you do. And it's about body, mind, and spirit. And you can continue to grow all of those aspects of your life. In fact, I will argue that you could have after you're 55, you could have a third of your life ahead of you. And you can get a lot of quality years out of that if you manage it the right way.
Right. It's the health span and the lifespan. Like you can have a long lifespan, but if you don't have a good health span, why bother? Right?
And you could be freed up, Christy, to do the things that you may have always wanted to do, but you never had a chance to do. It could be the best time of your life. And I'm not saying that because I'm in that, but I got to tell you, if you really are mindful about the decisions and you're consistent, I feel better now, honestly, than I did 20 years ago. Honest to God, I feel better. And my practices and my exercise and everything, they're better now. I'm stronger now than I was. And I don't look at the number. People say, "Oh, how old are you?" And I tell them, and they're like, "Whoa," but I know what happens when you tell somebody your age. They have something in their mind like, "Oh, you're this age, so that means you're that." And so I don't get into that. I don't ask people their age. If they ask me, I'll tell them if it seems important to them, but it means nothing to me.
Right. Sometimes I will tell people my age just for the shock value. So I know I don't look my age, and I certainly don't act my age.
You look fantastic.
Well, thank you. I'm 60.
Regardless.
Well, thank you. But yeah, people have these preconceived notions about age and preconceived notions about what that's supposed to look like. And I know that from going to high school reunions that, the age in people is all over the charts.
Isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Some people do it really well, and some people do not age gracefully or well. And in some ways, I think our mindset does determine that.
Yes, that's so important. I mean, the behaviors, we make choices all day long as to what we consume in terms of media, in terms of food, in terms of beverage. I think a couple of baseline things that people can do is, cut back on sugar as much as you can, cut back on gluten as much as you can, cut back on dairy as much as you can, eat less, sleep more, love yourself more, do things that bring you joy, meditate, and do stretching. Like I used to go to the gym and lift weights all the time. I don't do that anymore. I use my body weight. So I do push-ups and I do planks and I do all kinds of stuff. And I feel better because it's better for me now. The weights, the gym was better for me then. Right. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I know people my age and they like to lift weights. Great, good. Do what works for you, because everybody's got their own path and their own choices to make at their own time.
Right. And the mindset, the intention that goes into it is just as important. So if you're going to the gym all the time and you hate lifting, that's me. I hate lifting weights. I'd rather stick a nail in my eye than do that. So it's not going to benefit me if I sit there and make myself do it.
Exactly.
Right. So it's our mind. Same thing with food. The energy that we put into our food from our attitudes, from our likes and dislikes, from our preconceived notions, it's going to affect our food too. So, having a good mindset about what you're eating and not sweating, is it I'm 100% organic and local and all these things. Just do the best. Anyway, off my soapbox now.
You're right. You're right. One size doesn't fit all. So, I might go back to eating good cuts of meat. But for me, for the past 15 years, I stopped eating meat. And my first date with my wife, I noticed she was a vegetarian from her profile. And I said, I would love a cheeseburger, but I'm not going to do that for this one time because I'm with a vegetarian. So, and then I stopped and she started to explain why she doesn't eat meat and all of that. And I did that. Now she eats meat and I don't. So whatever works for you.
Right. And you do the best you can with what you've got every single
Exactly.
moment, right? Yep. Why sweat it? Now, let's talk about dating over 50 because my God, it seems like a hell. Now, Kansas City is voted consistently as one of the top 10 worst dating, and that's for 20, 30 somethings. My God, you reach over 50. My God. So what do we need to know as we're dating over 50?
Well, first step is before you dive out there, you have to take a step back and you have to ask yourself, you have to be circumspect. You have to say, what have I learned from my dating and my relationships? Am I continually attracting the same type of person that's wrong for me? If so, why? What has been my role and responsibility in that? Can I do anything differently while still being myself? And kind of like work on yourself and say, what would be the best version of me to put out there? Like, if I don't take care of myself, why am I going to be attracted to somebody else? Because I have to respect myself first and always love yourself first. Then think about, okay, what do I want? What are my must-haves? And then if I have 30 things on the list, what are the top 3, the must-haves? And just because the longer you're single, the longer that list can go. And then just be open, because I found when I was in New York and I was on Match and the other services and dating and stuff, I met friends. I had women who became friends who introduced me to other women to date that were a better match for me. And I got, burned in the online dating thing, as so many people do. And people, I had this rule because there's so much lying about age and weight and everything. And you can't escape the truth, because eventually you're going to meet somebody in person. If they say they're 5'10" and they're like 5'4", it's going to come out. Or if they say they have a full head of hair and they don't, it's going to come out. So you just have to be as honest as you can possibly be. And then also factor in that the other person may not be everything. It's an ad. Okay. Your profile is an ad. So I had what's called, Christy, the 85% rule. If I would meet somebody new, I'd factor in, if they're 85% of what they say they are, I'll be thrilled. And if they're beyond that, I'll be delighted. And so what happened was some were at the 50% or lower, and some were beyond that. My wife, she hit 100. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. She's better than, she wasn't like pointing like, hey, look at me. And she's a wonderful person. So that was great. So you can be surprised, but set yourself up to have a wonderful surprise, not to be disappointed. And if somebody is not honest, just move on. Don't take it personally. Just go to the next person and always be as kind as you can. And you have to do what's right for you. And particularly for women, you have to respect yourself. You have to put yourself out there, join clubs, meetups, whatever turns you on, get to circulate. You're not going to meet somebody in person at home. I mean, you stay home and you can connect with people, but eventually you got to get out there.
No. And you've got to be something that other people would want to, somebody that other people would want to.
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's the mindset thing. If you're going out thinking nobody's worth my time, I'm going to get what I want, forget it. So, I think every match, whether that's online or meeting somebody organically, it's its own unique thing. It's a thing. I come from theater, so it's an audition. You're auditioning for people all the time, and you're trying to get the part of girlfriend or boyfriend. And it's always being that best version of yourself. Anyway, I could talk all day about dating because it is something that's like forefront for me. Well, let's talk about this new project. You've got the 30 days of writing about aging and longevity. Do you have a book out there coming from?
Well, I think so. I think it's inevitable. I've written 30 months. So every month I write a column. It's part of the series. And I gave you some of the topics. And yeah, I've got the proposal in hand and I've got some contacts there. So hopefully we're going to get that out there pretty soon. I'm finishing it up now. And I think it could be something that's pretty helpful. It should be a regular guy's kind of guide to how to approach your aging as a choice. Really, that's what it's all about. It's what we make of it. And instead of all doom and gloom, it can be a really freeing, wonderful time in your life if you have the right attitude and you look at the cards that you've been dealt and say, okay, I've got a problem here. I got a hip replacement, whatever. Make the best of it. What can you do to make the best of it? It's like what I was saying. I used to love to go to the gym and lift weights, and my body says, don't do that anymore for me. So work with your body weight and maybe it'll work out better. And it has, but you have to be flexible mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think our latter years are also a good time to really tap into our spirituality to help uncover who we really are. Because so much of that, we've been labeled our entire lives. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And now we're at a point where we can say, I'm going to be who I really am. And if you take the time and start to discover those things, you can really have a wonderful time. You can really flourish as a senior.
No, I think so too. Now, it was 2024, so I guess last year. I went through my second Saturn return. And the second Saturn return is a time where you really step into who you're going to be and you give 0 Fs about what anybody thinks. And it's a liberating experience. Just who I'm going to be now. And I give 0 Fs what anybody else thinks about. In fact, my friend Diana from Australia, she says, I need a t-shirt that says 0 Fs. Because, I mean, that is the part that is liberating when we realize that other people's opinion is their opinion. It has nothing to do with you. And for some reason, that only comes with age. I wish it generally came earlier.
I know. It's called irony, right? I mean, if I only knew then what I know now, but I see it with my son. He's 12. I'm an older dad. And I just see, if he only knew. But hey, I had my chance. I made my choices. I think I did a pretty good job. I have more to learn. So I'm learning now. I'm not thinking about then. I'm thinking about now.
Okay. This is what I was going to get to, is that you talked a minute ago about flexibility, being flexible in your attitudes, et cetera, and doing things differently. I would call that curiosity, being curious about other possibilities. I've always done it this way. What if I did it another way? I've always done it this way. Is there another way to do it? And that's our attitudes, our habits, our routines, everything, just having that openness and curiosity. So we're getting down to the wire here with our time together, Robert. So let's bring it back and let's circle back to better men, better world. What do you feel is the biggest challenge to men in being the best version of themselves? And what do you think are the best resources for men to become better versions?
Great question. Well, I think it goes back to a lot of the things we were talking about. I think maintaining your curiosity, your sense of wonderment. You're not defining yourself by how this culture has defined you. Because a lot of guys, they'll look at their wallet, they'll look at their power base and the size of their house and what type of car they drive. And they're like, that's me. Well, that's not you. That's the stuff you have. And that's wonderful. But you are a lot more than that. And so I think guys have to take a step back and say, am I really happy? I know I put up a good front and I have this stuff, but am I really happy? And what's this all about anyhow? So I think guys have to become a little more circumspect. I think they should take in as much information as possible. I recommend that every man learns to meditate because, with blood pressure and all of that, a lot of times guys, they get older and they get wound up on stuff and they get kind of stuck in their ways and their thinking. So they really need meditation, can really be helpful. Exercise, no matter what you can, depending on your situation, do whatever exercise you can that's physical, mental, and spiritual for yourself. You don't have to eat as much as you did. All of these things will keep your mind healthy also. Be open mind. Don't get locked into like, I have to turn on Fox News or MSNBC or whatever they call it now. Just when you witness, you have to get information as to what's going on now, but you don't have to have it determined your day. So witness, look at this is what they're doing now, but live your life. and make the decisions that make you happy. Find your joy, be open, say, question every single aspect of your life and say, what would I do to make it different? How could I make this better? This time, every day the sun comes up, you have another chance to do something different or better and uncover more about who you really are. And just be open to that.
I love that. I love that. So much of it, what you're talking about, is an inside job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what's going on now, Christy. I try to live by this. I don't always do it because I get triggered like everybody does. But now, if somebody says 1+1=5, I'm like, have a nice day. It's hard to do that, but it's so easy for us to get sucked into the divisiveness going on in our culture, and that's going to accelerate our aging. It's just going to burn us up inside. So anything guys can do to kind of let it loose, whether it's the golf course or playing the guitar or sailing or taking a walk or whatever, do the things that bring you joy. Be open-minded. Don't shut down like, I know this, I don't want to hear anything else. You do that to your own detriment. Be open-minded and listen to women, because women have so much knowledge and expertise that has been underappreciated. And this is a time now where it's great that women are finally getting a little bit of the recognition for all of the advancements they're making now in a very short period of time. And there's a lot more to come, but guys need to welcome that in. And if women are going to like be judging and this and that and all that, just be a good person. And you shouldn't have to. You may get falsely accused of something. Who knows? That's things happen, but you got to put yourself out there, and you got to be loving, and you got to trust the universe to have your back.
I agree. I agree. You know, a very dear friend of mine who I actually met on a dating app, guy, financial advisor guy, and he says his religion is don't be a jerk, but he doesn't use the word jerk. And, and
I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
Your Bible would be so simple.
Yeah.
And I think that this is so helpful for so many of us. And what you're talking about is, you know, being open-minded, love other people, listen to what others have to say. Don't be a jerk, right?
And don't get triggered and sucked in as much as possible.
God, as much as possible, right? I mean, that seems to be the goal and the aim of many people and many organizations is how many people can I make cry? How many people can I outrage, right? And, you know, people who've got, you know, the cups that say liberal tears or conservative tears, whatever, forget it. Forget it. There's no kindness in that. There's no love in that, right? So it's all coming together, all coming together. So if somebody wanted to find out more about you, say, listen to your show or read your books, where would they go for that information, Robert?
Well, I think if you just Google me, Robert Manni, Manni, you'll find a lot there. I'm also at my website, robertmanni, manni.com. The name of the show is Guys Radio. We've done 675 shows. We have one every week, a new one. And you were on recently, you're going to be back. And so that's a place, Guys TV. If you go on YouTube and just put in my name, I'm also on Rumble. The podcast is everywhere, KCAA Radio in Southern California. I'm on there. The book, The Guys Guide to Love, I'll hold it up. It's available on Amazon and wherever else you buy your books. And you can read the reviews there. And then I write the column, Aging is a Choice for Health Triangle magazine, which is part of UK Health Radio, which we're on there every weekend. And that's the world's largest talk health station. And then those columns end up on my website. So there's about half of my columns are on the website already.
And so the book, when it comes out, is it going to have the same title?
Well, I have two different angles on how I want to approach the aging book. And one would be, of course, Aging is a Choice. And another might be just a pinpoint on a specific age and build everything around that. We'll see. I want to make it into a series, but it's almost ready for a proposal. And then I'll continue the writing and then get it out there hopefully next year.
Good. Wonderful. I would love to have you back on to talk about that book when it's out.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful topic. And I'm just looking at your website now, robertmanni.com, Manni. And oh my gosh, it is chock-a-block full.
300 blog posts on everything, life, love, the pursuit of happiness. And then we have the articles from the Aging is a Choice series also, and a bunch of other stuff on there and links.
Right. All of your media appearances, your events, and your novel and everything else. It's a wonderful resource. You're a wonderful resource. I love that you're out here doing this stuff, Robert.
Thank you.
And it need this message so much.
Thank you. Because a lot of times I ask myself, wow, I could be making a lot more money doing what I was doing before. But you know what? I think this is all going to pay off in every way. Just to stick with it and do the right thing. And the universe, show me how good it can get. That's what I like to say.
Money shmoney. That, where it's really at is making the world a better place. And I feel like you're doing that.
Thank you. And so are you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for being on today. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. You've got so much to say and so much to contribute. So I love getting your message out into the world.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, everybody.
Don't know what to watch next? Decisions. Well, we've got some suggestions. You can click this little video here and watch that. It's something that we think you're going to like. If you like the last one, you're going to like that one too. You can also click on the subscribe button. And if you do that, then you'll get notifications whenever we have a new video up. Win-win, right?